So Chip and I are here at our John and Bob's facility to talk about the miracle of compost and how to enjoy those miracles without having to buy compost or apply compost or make compost tea. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Chip and I plan to be doing a lot more videos for you. If you like them, please click on like and click on subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll be notified every Sunday when we post our new videos. I'm John Valentino, president of John and Bob's Corporation, and I'm a landscape architect and a landscape contractor. And Chip is here with me, Chip Valentino. He works with me on all our projects. You might be able to tell we're here on an autumn day because we're standing right in front of some spectacular Keith Davey Chinese pistache, which are providing great fall color. You can learn about that tree if you go to our video about planting a tree in clay soil, which was done just a couple weeks ago. Check it out. You might have experienced going to a nursery or talking to some kind of landscape professional if you have a problem. And the solution to almost every problem is usually compost. And compost really does offer a solution to almost every problem soil, whether you have caliche or clay soil or sandy soil. Can you imagine that? Soils as different as clay and sand, the solution is the same, compost. Whether you have all kinds of fungal problems or disease problems, even pest problems, when you talk to landscape professionals, almost always compost will be recommended. Now, good compost might surprise you. It's been composted. So I don't usually use compost. I use our own products, but I went online and I bought a compost from Amazon. I bought Charlie's Compost. And Charlie's Compost does pass the first test, which is, surprisingly, it doesn't have a strong smell. Good compost shouldn't really smell much. But Charlie's appears to be pretty good compost, and as you can see, it's pretty innocuous looking, and it's just a breakdown of all kinds of organic material over time. And what I think most people understand is that, we'll talk about this more in the second point, but that the real power of it is not in the physical nature of it, but it's the fact that it's alive, and we want our soil to be alive. And so compost is a way to make soil alive. I run into this misunderstanding of the power of compost and why it's so beneficial. The physical structure of it and the lightness of it is so much different than whatever your soil is, and that physically you add it to the soil and then you mix it in and you create a soil with a different tilth, a different texture, different porosity, all of that. That's not how it works, and that's not the power of compost. Because to do that, you would need a huge volume that's almost, it's impractical for one thing, and almost impossible physically to use so much of a different texture product to change your soil. And you'd have to go really deep, and so that's not the power and the miracle of compost. The power and miracle of compost is that it's alive, as I mentioned in the first point, and that life has the power and the capability of changing everything about your soil, especially when that life connects with whatever you're growing in your soil. And that's the power of compost. You're not going to use 3 times as much as you need and do anything better for your soil. It's really an inoculant. That's really the power of compost. Think of it as an inoculant. We're trying to make it so your soil, whether it be clay or sand, now has what it needs to grow complex life. So it has now beneficial bacteria. That beneficial bacteria is going to turn into beneficial fungi and good protozoa and good nematodes and then earthworms. That's the power of compost. It's going to make your soil alive, and lively soil is much more fertile, is resistant to every pest and disease. It's the ideal in gardening, and that's why compost is such a powerful force in gardening. So once we understand the real power of compost, it opens up all kinds of other lines of thinking, which is if you don't need big piles of anything like compost, maybe we can make this process of improving soil a lot more convenient, a lot more economical, because we can find things that mimic the benefit of compost by their ability to inoculate soil. And that's what really started us in our work in improving soil many years ago. First starting in the jobs we were doing in the 80s and the 90s, and then actually coming out with some products in the early 2000s when we realized that the power of compost can be exhibited with concentrated products that do what compost does and that maybe are derivatives of compost. And so things like humic acid, which is concentrated organic matter, that's food for microbes, and that comes in a very concentrated package. So instead of needing, what we started to realize that, especially as we worked on projects that were an acre and more, the amount of material of compost was prohibitive and very expensive that you would need to try to change soil. You'd need these big piles, which are expensive to buy, and then you'd need lots of labor to spread it all around, usually required incorporation. That's expensive from a labor standpoint. What if we could find things that we could just sprinkle on top that are concentrated? Instead of needing a big pile of anything, we could carry it in the trunk of our car, maybe even in the glove compartment of our car, what you need to do your whole you could do your whole yard. We have another video that we did just recently called How to Soften Clay Soil with Organic Ingredients, and that goes into detail about all the products like humic acid that can do what compost does in concentrated forms, and they're mostly products that we use in our John and Bob's line. So our Maximize is really a concentrated compost, and instead of stopping at it just being a concentrated compost, we added things to it to make it even more effective than compost. So it does have an organic compost in it, and then we added to that mycorrhiza, which is the most powerful soil fungi there is that attaches itself to roots. Minerals, almost every mineral in the periodic table in the form of ground up basalt, so old lava deposits. And minerals is what turns on the light for microbes. That's what brings microbes alive. It's fantastic food for microbes. One of the things I really like about Maximize is the smell of it. Now this is exactly what a really high quality compost should smell like. It doesn't have a lot of smell, but you do get kind of a sweet aroma with it, which is just perfect for a real high quality compost. The Maximize works the same way in that you're not going to use enough of this to change the texture and the tilth of your soil. The tilth and the texture will change over time because of the life in the soil. And you start out by applying it and growing things in your soil, and you'll see that soil change from the surface on down as you continue to use it. All of our products are easy to apply and convenient and economical, and as the big advantage is you don't need big amounts of any of them, and you can learn how to apply them by looking at our other YouTube videos. We did one recently on how to apply Maximize. that talks a little bit more about Maximize, and you can find similar videos on all the products that show you just how easy it is and how economical and convenient it is.
Hey there, friends. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell. Want to learn more about our products? Then head over to our website, www.johnandbobs.com.